Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2022 Fearless Summit. Next on stage, he's a medical doctor with over 30 years experience in the areas of obstetrics and gynecology. His passion for Christian engagement in all spheres of influence have seen him serve in numerous positions, including as the convener of the Life Committee of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum, as a chairman of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, and as a commissioner of the Catholic Justice and Peace Department. In addition, he serves as a chairman of the Mary Help of Christians Circle, a member of the family board of the Catholic Archdiocese of Nairobi, and sits as a board member on various private companies, mission hospitals, and non-governmental organizations. He is married to Dr. Mercy Wahome, and together they have been blessed with 3 children and 1 grandchild. Please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Wahome Ngare.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're so excited. As you can see, we are happy to have you. And we're excited to have you here, Dr. Ngare. You're no stranger. He's no stranger to Mavuno. You've been you've come and educated our community. When we were going through the COVID experience, you came on and you guys remember him? Yeah! And you taught us about, that was actually the first family night we ever had. And you came on and you really instructed us, and I think we have a fond place for you in our hearts. And just listening to your profile and all the things you've been able to accomplish as a doctor, but also in many other sectors. First of all, I loved your story that you grew up Presbyterian and then became Catholic, which is a very interesting story, and now serve in the Catholic Church. Jesus, passionate about Jesus, serving him within your local Catholic parish, but also having an influence on the wider Catholic Church in this nation, but also serve in the Kenyan Christian Professional Association, I believe as a secretary. Oh yeah, the Life Committee. I'm sorry. Yes, I remember that as a Life Committee. You were the Kenya Medical Association chair for quite a while. You have a long, illustrious career as a gynecologist and a laparoscopic surgeon. I'm sure I said that wrong. But the interesting thing is, what amazes me about you is despite a busy practice, a long career, many things you're involved in the medical field, you still are involved in politics, and you're involved in economics, and I don't know, how are these things even connected? How is it that a doctor, in Kenya we know a doctor does medicine, and that's your sector, but I hear you talk politics like a politician, you talk business like a business person. How did you even begin to get involved in these things?
Well, good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much, Pastor M. My journey is interesting. I really just wanted to be a doctor. That's how it all began.
Yeah.
My brother had left me a dog when he went. It was my first inheritance. He went for scholarship training to the US, and he had this dog called Tommy, and he left me and he said, look after Tommy.
Yeah.
Then Tommy got some cancerous lesion in the tummy. We tried treating him, he didn't get better, and then the vet said that he had to be put down. And they got this, that time my father was working with the prisons department, so yeah. they got this, the best masks, came with his big rifle. It was supposed to be quick, and it would be over. But the poor fellow shot the dog in the arm.
Oh. So
Tommy runs back, I'm locked up in the house. I can see him coming back. He comes to the veranda, and Tommy bleeds to death. And I'm telling them, if we just stop that bleeding, Tommy won't die. And I said to myself, this will never happen to another dog. So that's how I started my journey. And then when I was in Form 6 and we were filling out the documents for going for university, somebody asked me, what are you going to do in the university? And I said, I'm going to be a vet.
Yeah.
That's what I had always wanted to
Wow.
be. And he asked, why don't you look after human beings instead? I thought, okay, same principle.
Keep
So
them
I
from
filled
dying.
in for medical school, and I got a place to train. So that's how I became a doctor.
Wow.
But then when I became a gynecologist, there was this movement that has started about popularizing abortions,
Yes.
about the killing of the unborn child as a service in our field. And it irritated me a lot because that was the most vulnerable stage of human development. And this is how God sends us the next prophet, the next president, the next... Yeah. So who is this you're killing, and who do you think you are to make that decision?
Wow.
So I then got involved in the pro-life movement. Then I discovered that you can't save the unborn child unless you save the mother. She's the one who will make the final decision.
Yeah.
Then you discover you cannot save the mother unless you save her relationship, because there's this guy who has rejected her after she believed in him.
Yeah.
And then you must then save the family.
Yeah.
Then you cannot save the family unless you save the society. Yeah. And how do you engage with society is through politics.
Wow.
It is the politicians who are forming our laws. They're the ones who are forming our policies. Everything that affects us every day is run by the leaders.
Wow.
Then you cannot sustain political power unless you have wealth. And therefore you need wealth to be able to sustain political power.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing is you cannot sustain wealth unless you're in God.
Yeah. It's interesting because as you describe that, it's not just a thing you're saying. For you, it was a journey that took you upstream more and more to begin to get to the source of the pain for that unborn child. Yes. That your passion for life took you to the place where you said, I cannot. In fact, I remember, if I can quote you, you said, if I don't get involved in governance, my practice of medicine will be faulty.
It will be
I remember you saying that.
Yes.
And I mean, you talked about the fact that there's a clash of kingdoms. Yes. That is happening. Yes. And that many times as Christians, we're very busy downstream dealing with the symptoms. Maybe talk a bit about that. Yes,
in the Life Committee of the Kenya Christian Professional Forum, where I've been the moderator, the convener, sorry. We came across a story. I don't even remember which country it was from. And it is a story about the children in the river. And you have this village that finds kids in the morning drowning in the river, and everybody jumps into the river to try and save the children. But even as they were pulling out children, more were coming down the river. And this one fellow looks at them and actually walks away. And everybody is so pissed off. You know, we are all struggling to save the kids. How can this guy walk away? And he walked away, and after some time, there were no more children in the river. So when they went upstream, they found that the fellow had actually found the fellow who was encouraging the children into the river. He went upstream and he solved the problem.
Yeah.
And that is what we are having. So when we have the community of Christians struggling with LGBTQ, struggling with economic issues, struggling with abortion issues, struggling with whatever it is we are struggling, all those are symptoms of a broken system. Unless we go back upstream, and sort out the source of the problem, then we'll not be able to do anything about this. Wow. And the source is we must be centered in God, and then strong families. Then we go into everything else.
Wow. Wow. And I love that, because what I heard you saying, yes, let's appreciate what he's saying. I think what you're really saying, and I remember you gave me a very interesting example from your industry, where you talk, when you're just giving the idea of how we tend to deal with symptoms.
Yes.
And how you talked about, for instance, maybe, I don't know if you remember this example, because we spoke a while back, but you talked about kidney failure.
Yes.
And how many times when we see kidney failure, we start saying, let's develop a kidney hospital.
Yes. It is a very unfortunate thing, because we are not being encouraged to find solutions or cures. So the practice of medicine has been captured, and it has become one of managing diseases. So we have cancer, and cancer is becoming more frequent. But as scientists, we are not being allowed to ask why. Why is there cancer, and why wasn't it there before? And what can we do to prevent it?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
We're just building cancer treatment centers.
You just build cancer treatment centers, get more drugs, get radiotherapy equipment. All this stuff is feeding a system. The more you treat, the more you feed a system, because you have to buy this stuff. It is not in the interest of that system to stop the disease. So if we have 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds having kidney failure, the question should be why? Why would the kidneys of a 20-year-old fellow stop working when our grandfathers were living 100 years? That's abnormal. It shouldn't happen. And there should be a question of why. Because then if we know why, then we would stop this madness. But then that doesn't make money. Stopping the disease does not make money.
Yeah.
Okay, so the system is engineered towards manage what is happening, manage diabetes, manage this. We don't know the reason. Don't worry about why it is happening. Just manage.
Wow. And I think what the doctor helped me understand is that there's a kingdom of darkness and a kingdom of light in every one of our industries. And that the kingdom of darkness wants us to deal at the symptom level, never really engage with where the question of the why. Why are young people hooked to pornography? Why are families breaking apart? Asking the why questions, we deal with, let's do counseling, let's create a counseling. So we kind of deal with the symptoms as opposed to getting deeper in the why. But you talked about the fact that Jesus set up a kingdom. Somebody say kingdom. That Jesus came to set up a kingdom. There's an opposing kingdom to the system that you're talking about. And that as Christians, we're supposed to be part of another kingdom. It says you're a royal priesthood, a holy nation. That we are supposed to be part of a kingdom that opposes the kingdom of darkness. And there's a kingdom thinking that I think you've been in. He's become one of my mentors and been instructing me on this kingdom thinking that I think is just a phenomenal way of thinking. Maybe you can say something about kingdom.
Yes, it is true. Christ came to establish the kingdom. And I think as Christians, we hardly focus on this matter. We are too petty on the churches and too focused on our church. And the way we delineate ourselves is the differences we have. You see how Mavuno is worshiping. That is not our style.
Yeah.
But we have only one king.
Oh, yeah.
And the allegiance must be to the king.
Yeah.
It must not be to man, so that if my bishop is not aligned to the king, I should be able to tell the bishop, you are not aligned. If my father is not aligned to the king, I should be able to tell him, my father, you are not aligned.
Yeah.
My spouse, you are not aligned. My daughter, you are not aligned. My son, you are not aligned. Because we only have one king. Now, the churches would be like many little departments or many little tribes within that kingdom.
Yeah.
And it is nice to have differences. I mean, we are all beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it is not a bad thing to have denominations. But the kingdom concept then says, God created, man created the world, man fell to sin, and there was a new king on earth.
Yeah.
And this is Satan. And God says, I'm coming back to rescue my people, and he sends Christ as our new king. Therefore, Christians should not expect soft play. You have been sent to take away from Satan what belongs to God.
Yeah.
It is a struggle, and it will not be given to you on a silver platter. And the sooner we get this in our mind and clear, the sooner we engage.
Wow.
Because there is a lot of work to do, and there are very few laborers. So let's get out there and get to work. There's a lot of work to do.
I love it. Don't expect it to come to you on a silver platter, but God has called you to take over, take back what belongs to Him. Now, we're going to be looking at an example, because today we looked at the LGBTQI community, but we want to actually look at another example that we often don't examine in the church, which is the Muslim movement, the Islamic movement, and what they are doing, because they're doing some very incredible things as well. And I think one of the things I'm learning is that we must observe. As Christians, we must learn from others. You can't insulate yourself and say, those people are not people of the kingdom. We don't want to hear what they're doing. Amen. And so there's a great illustration that you shared with me. And I don't know if you guys have, I hope you guys at the back, Pastor Godwin has that illustration. Maybe you can put it up at some point. But you shared how you ended up studying Islamic thinking. How you ended up in that. Maybe just give us a little bit, a snippet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am the convener of the Life Committee in the Kenya Christian Professional Forum. I'll soon be moving to the board, so I'll leave that position to somebody else. But my business was to protect life from conception until natural death. That was my business.
Yeah.
And we saw some very painful moments with Islamist terrorism. Now, some people call it terrorism. What it really is jihad. And we lost 147 children in Garissa, the Garissa massacre.
The university, yeah.
Yes. And people have been killed in Mandera, were being pulled out of buses and being asked to say the Shahada, and if they didn't know, then they would be shot dead. We had people who were killed in the quarries in Mandera. We had the Westgate massacre. That still fell under my portfolio.
Yeah.
It is loss of life. And the question was, what is this? When you look around, you can see Islamic influence. You go to buy dollars today in Nairobi, and the best rate you get will be from an Islamic.
Yeah.
Yes. The M-Pesa shops have all gone, all right? The eating houses in the city of Nairobi have all gone.
Yeah.
The estates have begun to go. South Sea has gone. Then there is this. You can actually see Islamist influence. And then the issue is that they are only 9 to 10% according to the census. So then the question is, how is it that a small group of people would have such great influence? And that is where the interest started.
So you started by trying to study how to save life, and slowly found yourself getting drawn into a bigger conversation, going upstream.
Going upstream, yes. So that's how I started. And it was very fascinating. I don't know whether they got the slide.
I hope you have the slide. Pastor Godwin has it if it's not up. So
Yes.
Pastor Godwin, if you could just quickly put that up.
Maybe I could be explaining.
But just be explaining in the process, yeah.
So the Muslims are clear they only have one God. They only have one king. And the service to that king. And because you are a part of the kingdom, then you're my brother.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is how they find their unity. So they have they're traders, so they're very keen on money.
Yeah.
So they invest in the forex bureaus because they need money to ship in stuff. So they want to have possession of the dollars.
So it's intentional.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
Then they have what they call, they would call them Sharia compliant units. So if you have a restaurant and you're
the diagram is up now. Yeah.
So if you have, they invest in petroleum because they need to haul their goods. So they need petrol stations, stop points, and to fuel their vehicles. So they go into petroleum. Then they pool their money together in insurance, in what is called takaful insurance. And they recently got a license to do their pensions. So their money is not mixed with everybody else's, it's pooled together. Then they have the halal food outlets.
Now, that was interesting when you talked about that, yeah.
So halal food outlets don't have to be owned by Muslims. They come to KFC and they say, we really love your food and it will be very nice, but we can't eat it because it is not halal. So two things can happen. One is put in a Muslim to be cooking and praying as the food is prepared, or even better, buy your ingredients from a Muslim, then everything you cook will be halal. And if you comply, then you get a big sign written halal certified, and you pay for it every year. It's not for free.
So anything that I ever see in town that says halal certified means that a Muslim prays for it and is involved in food prep, and that they pay for the license.
Yes, so any one of those will earn you the license.
Again, guys, this is just to say the Bible says the children of light, many times we have no clue what's going on around us. And it's important for you to just understand. You just see the signs, you don't even know what they mean. But somebody somewhere is very smart and is using they're speaking their kingdom language into your culture. Yeah.
Then the other one is the halal food certificate. If you look at your Kimbo or your Kasuku and others,
the cooking oil, all the containers.
Yes, you'll find a little sign called halal sign with a little mosque on it. And you'll find many other products. Just this next time you go to the supermarket, just look at the labels and look for a little sign written halal. And you'll find that a lot of the products we have are actually halal certified. So Bidco pays to the Islamic institution money so that they can certify their food as halal, because then they would be able to sell it in Arabic or in Islamic countries. But every time you buy, then you contribute to that income. So what they do is that they will also have, the Saudi Arabia will give you money if you need money for soft Islamization, say is the Quran, you want to give free Qurans, you want to put a mosque. Countries that are Islamic are expected to give some money to
that, I always find that very interesting, because Islamic countries are very keen on building mosques in other places.
Yes.
And they realize that the resources they've been given are to spread it across the world.
They understand. It is still part of the kingdom. So you plant a mosque.
Somebody talked, one of our speakers said yesterday that when you talk to your many Western, your friends in the West, many of them want you to see you doing digging of wells, children, but when you say it's for church planting or for evangelism, that nobody's interested in that. But you're saying for this other kingdom, that's their key business.
In fact, if you plant a mosque, if you go and set up a mosque, you basically have claimed this land for Allah. So it's a very good sign for Islamization. So if we want Muslims to know that the next area of target is Kitengela, then we plant mosques. And anybody driving there then knows this is the area we are to
come and do business in.
So you start buying your land, start preparing for the next 10 years. This is the area we are coming. Okay, so it's very interesting. Now, if you are interested in jihad and you need military equipment and stuff like that, then Iran would be the place to go. Now, each of those, the person, the company, the country, is supposed to give at least 2.5% of their wealth towards Islamization. And that is put together in a pool that is called a Zakah pool. And then you take from that pool and you do everything you need to do to spread Islam. So they go into politics intentionally. You wouldn't go into politics in this country unless you are a scholar of Sharia law. You may be an MCA, you may be whatever you want to be. Some of those fellows you see look illiterate. They are scholars of Islamic law because they are going to represent the kingdom. So you put 3 of them in your cabinet, and every cabinet paper that comes out of there will have some gain for the kingdom. All right?
So did you just get that? That you will not be Islamic, some of you are in politics, that those guys you're sitting around the table with you are scholars of the Quran. And that's how they get approval to actually run from their movement.
Yes, so they are selected. You just don't say you want to go. There is a selection process. Then you are given permission to go. Then economic jihad is interesting. If you want to take over land in Isili, for instance, and this is just an example in case we have NIS people here. If you want to take land, Isili belongs to Christians. It had always been for many years after independence. You go and you throw in a bomb, and after 2-3 months you throw another one, and then you come and you ask, is there anybody selling land? If you want land in Malindi and nobody is giving you land, then you go and you kill men in a certain village, and you leave women and orphans, and then the sheikh comes with goodies, and there are widows and orphans to be taken care of. The Christian community is not interested in an insecure place, and in 2-3 years, the widows are married off.
That's economic jihad.
If you want to take over some estate in South Sea, you go and you buy the biggest corner plot. How much are you selling? I'm not selling. We'll give you 10 million. The house is worth 8 million. I'm not selling. We'll give you 15 million. I'm not selling. We'll give you 20 million. I'm not selling the house. We'll give you 30 million.
Wow.
Chukua.
Have it.
Take, I can buy 3 more with that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then we convert that into a mosque. We put big loudspeakers into the estate, and every day at 5 we start our prayers.
And remember, I have people in City Hall to make sure that this will happen.
Yes. So in a bit, it is not convenient, and people start selling off and moving away. And the last house we buy at less than market price.
And the whole estate is now Muslim.
Now,
the reason I'm sharing this is, if you live in Kenya, you've seen it happen. And you probably wondered, how did it happen? And again, the idea of this conversation is not in any way to cause alarm, to cause a sense of, no, we hate those people. No. Jesus told us to love. These are people who Jesus died for. And so that's not the idea here. The idea is to show that there are people in movements thinking strategically, and that they're using the resources they have to achieve things that many of us maybe just look at and wonder, how is this happening? I mean, I love the example. You also talked about that. You gave me the example of the wholesale. Like if you have the big wholesale shop in South Sea and how that is taken over.
Yes, that is part of economic jihad. So we want to take the economic space in that town. Then we go and we put a big wholesale shop for Muhammad, and we give him money from the Zakah pool, and we make sure that his family is taken care of, and that he keeps his prices just a bit lower than the market. And everybody is happy with this new found saving point. And in the next 6 months,
every other business collapses.
Everybody else collapses, then you adjust back your prices. I worked in the Aga Khan hospital, and at one time we were going to go on strike because Nairobi hospital doctors had been added some money, and we felt it is time we also got some. But the interesting thing was that the guy who was leading our strike was actually Asian. And we were very confused. So we asked him, how come you're involved in this? And he said, do you know, I realize the Ismaili doctors are being paid more than us. So we asked him, and how much are you paying? Are you being paid? And we found he was being paid more than us. So
yeah.
So there were 3 salary scales. And the Ismaili was getting the best, the Asian and Arab were getting the red, and then us were getting the least.
Wow.
You are not one of them. It's just the way it works.
So there's a community sense of let's lift each other up.
We lift each other up.
Let's make sure our businesses thrive.
Yes.
Let's make sure our people get good homes.
Yes.
And they're working together to uplift the community. I think that's a principle I want you to get.
Yes.
Is that the community works. Isn't that like the Church of Acts? It's like people sold property to make sure nobody was hungry among them. Guys, these are biblical principles.
Yes.
And maybe the reason we're alarmed is because we're not applying the Bible ourselves. That's why we're so scared when we see this thing. Just keep the diagram up, please. Just keep it up because I want people to...
So the most interesting part then is, this is usually animated. So this is just one fixed. But you can see that by working together, they already have some strength, pulling their money together and going to do all these things they need to do to influence their surrounding. But that's not where the interesting thing is. The interesting thing is when the 80% other religions, here in Kenya would be Christians, go and buy from this system. You actually multiply what goes into the Zaka pool by a factor of your percentage.
Right. Wow.
Are we together? So who is feeding the monster? So we can see them thrive. We can see them thrive as a small percent, but where is the money coming from?
Right here.
So we have done a lot of good work in investing in spiritual well-being as a kingdom. We have done zero in the economy. We have done zero in politics. And we still wonder when the rain started beating us.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Guys, there is a soko, a market out here. The purpose of that market is that you walk around and find out which fellow Christians are running a business and to say, why would I invest in somebody else if somebody from my church is actually doing the same product? That's the idea of uplifting one another as a movement. And to say, look, walk around, identify somebody and say, I want to support you. Some of the people, you might even just say, I want to just support you. Because you're a believer in a harsh world, and you know how harsh the business world is for Christians who want to do things with righteous standards. And so I believe what you're telling us is we can work together as a community and uplift one another up.
In fact, there are just a few principles of the kingdom in the economic area. Every time you buy, remember you're using the king's money. If you are a true Christian, then you understand you are a steward of resources that belong to the king. They do not belong to you.
Yeah.
You call it your house, you call it your money, you call it your wife, you call it my child. They are not yours. You are just a mere steward of God's resources.
Yeah.
Now, if you have given your life to Christ and you are a Christian, then you are a steward of resources of the king.
Yeah.
The question then is, when you go to buy, which kingdom are you building? Because every time you spend, there is a risk of money leaving the kingdom. So the principle is always buy from one who is of the kingdom first. That's the principle.
Wow.
So goods and services, always buy from one of who is the kingdom. But you can sell to everyone, including the atheists, because then wealth is coming into the kingdom. Are we together? So buy from your own, sell to everyone when you are dealing with goods and services.
Wow. Now, I know that the guys who are trying to do the keyboard and everything, they're telling us time is up. I know. I've even read. But the Holy Spirit is saying we continue. So I'm not done yet. We're going to go for another few minutes. So just relax. I know the time.
Yes.
So
the second principle is when it comes to land,
yeah.
Don't sell the king's land to anyone who is not of the kingdom. But you can buy from them. If you lose land, you have lost possession. What was it all about if it wasn't the land? You never sell your land to one who's not of the kingdom. But you can buy from them at whatever price, because then you possess the land. If you remember just those two principles, then you'll have understood the concept of the kingdom in the marketplace.
Now what the doctor is sharing is what he has learned from studying another movement. And these are principles that have helped the movement prosper in Kampala. That movement has prospered in Nairobi. It has prospered in all our countries in Africa because of very simple kingdom principles. And one of the things that I believe will be an application of this going forward is we've been talking with Dr. Wahome and saying, how do churches begin to engage with this? And I love the fact that one of the things we've learned about from our Worship Harvest is just beginning to create business communities within our congregations. That you say, how do we as business people in a congregation begin to build each other's businesses? So this soko is something that we want to see beginning to replicate in all our churches. Business equipping for our people, so that we actually start to trade with one another and build each other's businesses. It's sad that somebody would really struggle in their business, and yet there are people around who have resources, wisdom, understanding, and we can help each other grow. So that's the first thing. It's just how do we begin? And you know what? We should be saying we can actually build a business within Mavuno Hill City. And when I look for that product, I first want to see who in my congregation is producing it. And if not, then I say who in the Mavuno family. And then after that, if I don't find, then I say, okay, who in Worship Harvest, our partner churches? And then after that, I say, okay, who in any church? which believer is producing? It sounds discriminatory, but it's lack of understanding of that has pushed the Christian church from the places where it understood how to harness God's resources to the place where we have sayings like, as poor as a church mouse. Have you ever heard anybody talk about a mosque mouse? That's because there are no poor mosque mice. In Jesus' name, that story changes in our generation. It changes in our generation. Now, one of the other things that you've taught me, and maybe we'll close, but one of the things you've taught me is also the fact that that's a business model that a church can use, starting with a small group, the discipleship community, the missional community, whatever you call your small group, already saying, how do we build each other's businesses, percolating that to your zone, percolating that to your campus and to your movement. But then also we've talked about the fact that, and this is something that you're already beginning to create models for the Catholic Church, where we're talking about not just a business model, but eventually a political model, where we have a leadership generation model from the grassroots. And I think that was one of the most fascinating. Maybe we can end with that one, where you talked about the fact that in a small group, that people know who the good leaders are. Yeah.
Yes. So very briefly, with the foundational understanding of the economic system, the easiest route for the Christian community is church-based cooperatives. So you form church-based cooperatives in every church. They'll be small, they'll be many, but what they'll do is that they'll give us a Christian ID in the marketplace. If you come to my establishment and you come with your ID that you're from the Mavuno cooperative, church cooperative, I can actually give you a discount without your neighbor knowing what is going on. All right? Now, the second level is that the specialists then form what we will call the secondary level cooperatives. So the healthcare workers who are Christians then form one giant healthcare cooperative, and for you to join that, you must be a member of the church-based cooperative. It locks the Christian business into Christian community only. And that church-based cooperative, the secondary level health cooperative, would only invest in healthcare and nothing else. So if you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a pharmacist, join that healthcare cooperative and go and do whatever business you have. So today we have the three best private hospitals are owned by the Aga Khan, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Kisumu. We do not have anything like that for the Christian community. In fact, when you look at the businesses and ask per religion, Christians don't appear in the radar because we don't go into business as Christians. So those cooperatives are very important. Now, in terms of the church here, you'll find there'll be people who are well-resourced who may be able to save 100,000, 200,000, maybe 500,000. And there'll be young people who are looking for 50,000, 30,000, 100,000 to start a hustle, but they will not get money from the bank. If you are in the church and we know you and we know you are in good moral standing, then we sign for you and you can get your money to go and do what it is you need to do. So it would take care of a lot of issues. Now, the secondary level cooperatives will not be denominational and they will be national. So it doesn't matter which Christian denomination you come from. So long as you are a member of the primary cooperative in your church, then you're free to come and join this one. So in our church, we've started the first ever cooperative that is church-based. You cannot be a member unless you are a member of the church, which then means you must be a baptized Christian. And then very soon we'll start the healthcare cooperative, and then at least this framework will be in place. It will just be waiting for growth. Now let me tell you about the politics that Pastor M is talking about. We need to have Christian political leaders. Now, we have Christians who have gone into politics, but we want Christian politicians. What is the difference? We want you to come and declare here in this Mavuno church that you're interested in the MCA position of this area. Now, Mavuno is divided into, you call them cells or?
Discipleship groups.
Discipleship groups.
Yeah.
Let every person who's interested in being an MCA person go and say it in their discipleship group. Now, you need a nomination, and the nomination is where we shall fight corruption. So the first person who nominates you must be a member of your family. Must be your spouse, your adult child, your brother, your father, your mother, must be somebody in the primary unit you were born into, so that they tell us they trust you with leadership. The second person who nominates you must be a member of the disciple group who is not a member of your family.
Yeah.
You have lived with them, they have seen you, they know you, and they trust you with leadership.
Yeah.
They are the second nominator. If you come with that nomination form to the fellowship group, then we have 3 of you who are interested in MCA, then we choose only one. Then all those who have been chosen from the different groups will come to the church here and we'll take them through a serious vetting process to see whether they understand what it is they want to go and do. And we elect one person from the Mavuno church to be the MCA candidates. Are we together up to that point? Then we tell the Catholics to do the same thing, the Presbyterians to do the same thing, and we end up with 10 people from different denominations
in this area
who have all been vetted from their home and their church and have been found fit for that position. And we do a second vetting process, and it is the Mavuno fellow who wins the best candidate for MCA. And we want to do this by 2026, so that we are only looking for political parties. One whole year we'll be scouting for political parties for our candidates. What is the promise we give you? If you run for office, your family will not spend its money on campaigns.
Yeah.
Why? Because
we have 10 churches already.
Campaigns will be by network.
Yeah.
Who won the seat in this area? It was so and so. We just go and look for that one person in the ballot, and we sort out this country.
Yeah. So, wow. So guys, I would love that every place there's a Mavuno church, that we will work with the local churches around us to have a godly process that picks a godly leader And I think what you didn't say at the end is once the Mavuno, if it's the Catholic candidate who's chosen, the rest of the candidates who had been picked become that person's committee of accountability. And the churches are behind that person, which then means that this person is not telling us what they're going to do for us. It is us in the grassroots who are you don't hire somebody and then they tell you what they're going to do for you. You now tell them this is what we want from our representative to do in the community.
Let me give you a little secret. Today, Pastor M calls the MCA candidate for this area. And he's told, my secretary will tell you when your appointment is due. Yes? If we elect our leaders through the grassroots system, then the leadership they will understand that they owe it to the Christian community. And we shall be able to effect the recall clause for the first time in this country. Because if you go and you scandalize the church by your speak, by your habits, by what you say, all the leaders of the church will need to do is to say 2 Sundays from now, we invite the IEBC to every church community in this area. We are collecting signatures to recall so and so. And in 1 Sunday, we have enough signatures to go for a by-election, to repeat the elections.
Wow. I guess you can tell why I hung out with him. And I think, again, guys, what we're talking about is we need to start to understand kingdom movements. It's not just movements, it is kingdom movements. It's not about picketing. It's not about making noise. It's about being as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. It's about understanding that God has an agenda for our community and our society, and as the movement of Jesus Christ, that we are actually the ones He has entrusted that agenda with. And so, again, I just want us to give a mighty, fearless thank you to Dr. Wahome Ngare. Thank you so much, Doctor. It's a joy. Thank you so, so much. God bless you. Thank you.